The Haunted Mansion was an incredibly late addition to Disneyland, so late in fact that Walt Disney wouldn't live long enough to see one of his most infamous creations come to life, though I would have simply used that as an opportunity to haunt the fucker myself. Regardless, it's an idea that predates the park itself and the vast majority of its most celebrated contents, but was postponed and forever tinkered with until the untimely death of its lead visionary. Mark Davis and Claude Coates, longtime Disney creatives, were trusted with the appearance and design of the mansion, as well as its overarching themes, but had differing opinions on whether the ride should be spooky or satirical, until they settled on a very devious combination of both. This would serve as a template for the eventual movie adaptation over 30 years later, a culmination of the ride's success and the Pirates of the Caribbean incredible box office reception, producing a high-budget, rather charming blockbuster with comedy legend Eddie Murphy at the helm. Disney set out to capitalize on the extremely successful trend of ride-to-movie spectacles. Unfortunately, critics didn't see it that way, and were all seemingly possessed by the same fun-sapping spirits, proceeding to relentlessly shit on every aspect of this once hopeful franchise. But despite the reviewers' intestinal woes, the movie has somewhat of an enduring legacy, at least to me, and survives mainly from the nostalgia in those of us who are exposed to such horrifying imagery as children. Let me know in the comments if you suffer from similar nightmares, and on your scroll back up to the video, make sure to like and subscribe. That'd be really cool of you. Murphy's career trajectory at this point had firmly steered away from more adult-oriented comedy, and instead taken refuge inside the easy money-making machine of children's cinema, though this foray into the world of slightly softer material, after withstanding a few minor space-themed setbacks along the way, would finally peak with arguably the finest horror movie starring Eddie Murphy to date. The film itself, though, is very much worth dissecting, as I feel it does genuinely straddle the extremely tender line of comedy horror to perfection. So, let's begin. Gracie of Gracie Manor is understandably devastated to stumble upon the body of his darling lover alongside a hastily written note, and in the ensuing moments of a mental breakdown, suffers the same fate as his beloved partner. We unfortunately bear witness to a couple of early casualties at the start of a kids' film, mind you. A fairly morbid start, but you could always play it in reverse and make it look as if they're actually being reanimated. Making one hell of a giant leap to present day, some kid on a bike awkwardly approaches the gloomily lit entranceway, clutching some Eddie Murphy flyers, and is scared off by an awfully invasive jump scare. Thank God this movie wasn't showing in 3D, otherwise the fucking whiplash I would have received from whatever this thing was. Murphy is generally fantastic in the role of charmingly sleazy realtor, and pretty much steals every scene he stars in. Jim Evers, Murphy's character, selfishly avoids his own fucking wedding anniversary to close a deal with a client. His overcommitment to work and overall disregard for any form of romance is an interesting juxtaposition to Gracie, who literally took his own life to be with his significant other, although Jim partially makes up for it by promising to take the whole family on a weekend trip to apologize for his carelessness. The kids are of course total opposites, as well as being on and off rivals, with Michael, the younger and more emotionally fragile, as well as an arachnophobe, and Megan, the older and more independent, clashing throughout the movie. The roles are usually reversed, so it's nice to see some female bullying for once. After receiving a call from an elderly, rather sick-sounding British man regarding some real estate business, they decide to take a short detour from their trip, no doubt with the intention of taking advantage of a client in obvious cognitive decline, and show up at Gracie Manor. Although the man does raise some suspicion by demanding that Sarah, Jim's wife, come alone. Thankfully, she doesn't do that. The movie does a good job in establishing atmosphere, whether it be the dreary weather, or the unsettling interior of the mansion, or even the unsettling exterior of Terence Stamp. It all plays a part in conjuring up a level of creepiness that's almost cozy. Really, the aesthetics are off the charts, especially at nightfall. Rain combined with the warm glow of candlelight is enough to make me live vicariously through that tree over there. They meet Dead Guy from earlier on, although his death is seemingly undone, in order to make the house a tad more presentable. She's there to do business, though Ghost Guy clearly has other intentions, and due to the mere presence of a phantom with a slightly sensual grin, Jim's confusingly high opinion of himself as the alpha male of the group, an opinion shared by him and Jim alone, is already being massively undermined. Terrence Stamp awkwardly lurking in the foreground is my new favourite subgenre, by the way, and the plot from here on out is extremely fluid, with Murphy shyly wandering the halls, despite his complete dismissal of the paranormal, being a real highlight. Encountering a colourful cast of bumbling ghouls is an awfully nice departure from the stereotypical all ghosts are evil and mischievous trope. You know, not every single one of them has to be vengefully roaming the afterlife for all eternity. They do get one big infinite day off work after all. With the original ride being a sort of pastiche of various haunted house cliches, looking at the movie in a similar light is what I think critics at the time failed to consider, as it also incorporates elements of murder mystery, with the death of Gracie's lover eventually being attributed to the butler and a bottle full of poison. The reveal was somewhat to be expected. He's far from the most inconspicuous looking gentleman, and his goal to undo the curse invoked by Gracie at the beginning, in which he damned all inhabitants of Gracie Manor old and new to eternal purgatory by uniting him with a lookalike lover, is questionable to say the least. Although Jim's redemption is perfectly executed, and the last-minute heroics, rescuing his lover from undead Englishmen, strangely not the worst type of Englishman, and having to fend off a horde of the undead, or perhaps they were born like that, I'd hate to judge, is a satisfying conclusion. He also plays a major role in capping off the character arcs of Michael and Megan, with Michael overcoming his arachnophobia in order to rescue his family from life-endangering peril, whilst Megan joins forces with a dad she was reluctant to interact with earlier on in the film. The only thing missing from an otherwise pretty good movie was development for Sarah. She's lumped with an irresponsible husband and a 200-year-old phantom. Plus, the movie is absolutely rife with unnecessary jump scares. I mean, they must have thrown in a debilitating shock for every percent they received on Rotten Tomatoes.